All right, everybody. Welcome to season 1, episode 5. Episode 5 of the For the Shirt podcast. Sorry about last week. I know that everybody is really upset. I walked in on Friday and all of my good buddies were there and kidnapped me and took me down to Louisville for my bachelor trip. So we were not in any sort of state to record anything last weekend, nor did we really watch a lot of games. We watched the North London Derby and we watched Liverpool. So we're back this week. Briefly talk about last week, and then we'll go over all the action this week. But first, we have our good friend Justin Grooms joining us today. Justin, how you doing?
Great. I appreciate you guys having me on. Ready to talk some footy.
Let's do it.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I think we were able to sober ourselves up enough for the two games that we did watch. It was rather disappointing to wake up off of a drunken night to then watch your team lose a game to a team that they had absolutely no business losing to. That that made it kind of tough to brave through the rest of the day. But we do apologize for not getting that episode out. But yeah, we're back better than ever now.
All right, so I want to talk about the North London Derby a little bit real quick. Obviously, Arsenal 1-0 versus Spurs in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It's weird because I didn't expect to win that game. It always hurts losing a North London Derby, let's be honest. I don't think we played particularly bad. I think that Arsenal are a very good team and they play shit football. They pack the box. They don't really have a whole lot of attackers. They got to do what they got to do. They do what they do very well, and I can give them credit for that. David Raya played an outstanding game. It was the same old story for Spurs this season. We just have possession. We have shots. We just can't find the back of the net to save our lives. And that's pretty much all I have. Unfortunately, the better team won, and I'm man enough to admit that. But it was, like I said, it hurts. It hurts always losing to that team. But
yeah, I don't know.
It wasn't unexpected.
I think Raya has been definitely the brightest spot for Arsenal this season. I mean, we look at midweek 2, he saved a penalty to keep that game, 0-0 in the Champions League. He's had some really good saves. He had that double save. I forget who that was.
He had
against,
2 double saves.
Yeah,
he had a double save in the North London Derby and a double save over the week or during the weekend.
So he's really just clicking as a goalkeeper. I guess the move to get rid of Ramsdale looks spot on at this point. I feel like, if I were to speak from a Tottenham fan's perspective, you may have had hope in that match simply because there is a lot of injury issues going on at Arsenal right now. I mean, they had Marino injured, Odegaard injured. They're definitely not at their full strength, which, it's still a great squad through and through, but obviously not having your captain, Odegaard, in the center of the pitch is going to affect, the outlook on the entire match. So
it's not only that, but I also think like losing those midfielders, what you're seeing with Arsenal is that lack of control in the middle of the park. Like you saw like Spurs outpossess them in the game that they had. It looked like it was pretty obvious like that. Like this last game that they had, I'm sure we're going to touch on it in a little bit with their bounce back to it. But, like the City completely controlled the game today too. It just seems like with Odegaard out, they have no ability to control that middle of the park. And it's really kind of starting to show that where that the goal that they scored, the header that they scored in the North London Derby was really like, it was one of those where it was just bad marking, But if they didn't get that goal,
Yeah,
you're looking
Spurs
at a
suck at
completely
set
different
pieces.
story, though. You're looking at a completely different story in that game because they got dominated by possession. So I think
I don't like that narrative. I don't like that narrative, and I pissed a lot of Arsenal fans off on TikTok during the week leading up to it because they were starting on it was Tuesday, and they were Bleacher Report was like, these are all the players that Arsenal are going to be without for the North London Derby, and like it's just injuries happen. Injuries happen. All right. We could have won that game. We should, in my opinion, we should have won that game. I truthfully think that we were never going to score. Their defense is so sound. It's insane. And it's hard when you have, today's not a good example necessarily, but I took a screenshot today of the Man City attack. Arsenal had 8 players in the box. How do you get around that? Like that, there's low block, and then there's having 8 of your 9 available players in the box, and that's just how they're playing at this point. Whether it be without Odegaard, whether it be without Declan Rice, he wasn't playing. I don't think that I don't like that narrative of they were without their best players or they're without the 2 most important midfielders, which they were. It says a lot more about Spurs when I'm saying that, though, because they were without their best players. And I'm backtracking a little bit, but it's we lost. The better team won, and I guess I don't really know what else to say about it.
I understand where you're coming from. One thing, just a mini segue that I do just want to make a point on is this is, I mean, there's some fact to back it up, but this is strictly an opinion. I think Martinelli is cooked. I do not think he's of Arsenal quality. I think he had one of the higher thought mob ratings in that match.
Yeah,
but
he was the second highest.
He personally, for me, did not make enough happen. He got into great spaces and did nothing with it. It was basically watching Adama Traore 2.0 in that match. Who, shout out to him, he's been having a good season so far. But prior to the season,
he's been killing it.
Has not had
force, dude.
He's not had the goal contributions to back up, his, just productive play, getting in good positions, beating players on the ball. So I don't know, Martinelli for me right now, and I do think he had an assist, but it was on that Calafiori goal, which we'll get to that match too today. But that was not, a class assist. It was just a great strike from Calafiori.
Yeah,
but
it was an insane strike.
Martinelli for me, just not checking the boxes of an Arsenal winger, especially if you're stacking up against Saka on the other side. I mean, it's night and day.
He gets dispossessed too much. That's the issue. If you look at his stats against Spurs, even you look at duels, even look at duels right there. He won 11 and lost 6 duels during that game. I mean, every time he's going in for the ball, he's either getting dispossessed or he's not able to win it from someone else. And when you have that, and then you also are not really helping offensively, he's kind of just he's handicapping their team, especially when they have other options. But I don't know.
I mean, he's extremely quick, but again, getting into great spaces only does you so much. You've got to be able to get that end product out, and right now that's definitely lacking for him.
I don't even think you guys are 100% right. Like, he's just not up to par. He had some bright moments last season, I feel like. This season he hasn't. He's kind of been forgotten, I feel like. When Havertz has been playing pretty well. Saka is Saka. I mean, he's one of the top players in the Prem. So, but I just think the way that they're playing, they're not really playing attacking football. They're playing to their strengths, which is impressive. And they're, like I said earlier, they're doing an insanely good job at playing to their strengths. But I clearly, I mean, they're top of the league at this very moment. Like, it doesn't matter how he's playing. The team's doing enough to get the wins, and at the end of the day, wins are what counts. That's how it's going to work. So it sucks that we were on the losing end of that, but I I take a lot of positives from that. I mean, we were up there. We had the game. We could have closed it out. Should have closed it out, but it just didn't fall. And that's how it goes. You have to win. Can't drop too many points in this league. I mean, fuck. I think we're like 8th right now. I didn't check it after today actually, but either way, let's talk about your guys' game last weekend. What the fuck happened there, boys?
Yeah, it was
You go ahead and lead.
It was really disappointing to see, honestly. Like, it was a lot of just that lack of goal scoring prowess, which is something that we hadn't seen this season so far. And I think that was really frustrating because, I mean, there was like, I think 14 shots that we had during that game and only 5 were on target. So, I mean, you're getting open, you're missing opportunities. I think that was probably the worst game that Mo's played, which is kind of hard to say because he's had a great season so far, but that was a stinker for him at least. And, I think he showed up a little bit better in this last game, but it still was, it was very frustrating to watch that game because you felt there's so many opportunities for Liverpool to score. And then when Forest scored, it kind of felt like it was going to happen. Like the more, it wasn't like out of nowhere. It just was one of those things like, if we don't score one, we are going to get beat. And it's what ended up happening. And I was, by the time that game ended, I was sitting on the porch at the Airbnb, just swinging on the swing, my arms crossed, pissed off. Cause I'm like, what the hell are we doing, dude? That was a very frustrating game. But I'm glad that we got that past us and, move forward. The last 2 games that we played now, I feel a lot better about it, but it was just very frustrating to watch that last week.
First time in 20 years, right? I think is what they were saying.
For what, Forest beat us? Yeah.
Yeah, Forest came to Anfield and took the dub. Was it at Anfield?
Essentially, they just went into a low block for a majority of the match, and then just tried to spring on the counter, like Hudson-Odoi, Gibbs-White. Not obviously, we've been riding a high with Slot recently, and I don't think that, a lot of times you get a new manager and you're riding that new manager high. I don't think that's the case with Slot. I think, it might be partially that. I don't know what the exact percentage might be, but I do think he's tactically sound and, knows what he's doing. He's got, and, we'll get to this when we talk about today's match, but or yesterday's match, but there was a moment yesterday when Nunez scored that banger and he had this look of kind of like, wow, like I've got quality players now. Like at Feyenoord, there's levels. Feyenoord's not a bad squad, but the players he has now are not what he's had in his career, as a manager. So, I think he's learning to mesh that tactical sense with the quality that he has now on the pitch. And obviously that was a letdown. Credit Hudson-Odoi. It was a great goal. Put it in the bottom corner, the only place that you're going to beat Allison. But I think one point I want to make about that game was, it was almost a, latter season Klopp-esque game where like you expect to win and you just never put the ball away and you end up losing. But we only had like 0.8 XG in that game. We did not create any chances, which that was the only, if I'm going to pull a negative that's like, apart from losing, if I'm going to pull a negative, like keep an eye on moving forward, it's, we only created less than 1 XG at home against Forest, so I know Slot is very possession based and control based and wants to limit, the potential for damaging attacks, but to only create 0.8 or 0.85 XG was the only really concerning part for me in that game. But obviously we've had some bounce back games since then, but that was the big negative for me in that was, just not creating anything. If we create 3 XG and lose, so be it. Just bad day at the office, just couldn't put the ball in the net. But to only create less than 1 XG against Nottingham Forest would be the big, kind of negative for me.
To be honest,
yeah, that was the alarm there.
I was watching Forest Brighton this morning. Goodness, excuse me. And they have like kind of a good squad. Like I'm not even gonna lie, like they 0 losses, 2 wins, 3 draws. I mean, I didn't realize they got Chris Wood, sorry, Gibbs White starting up in the middle. You got James Ward-Prowse, I forgot he's there. Alex Moreno on loan, and then Anthony Alanga and Hudson Odoi. They kind of got a pretty good squad using that Brendan Johnson money from last year to.
They've also played basically every game against 10 players. There was like a stat this morning. They played 7 matches, including like I want to say one of them was like the FA Cup against Crawley or something, and they got a red card in that match too. So they played basically 7 matches, and I think 4 of those matches they played against 10 minutes at some point. Which is pretty fun.
I feel like they're kind of a sleeper team of the season right now. Yeah. They're up there. I mean, they're higher than Spurs right now. They're top 10.
Former Tottenham manager as well, Nuno Espirito Santo.
Yeah, why didn't he do that at Spurs? He was doomed at Spurs. Truthfully, we did not have the players that he needed to succeed in the system that he had, and we gave him a solid 6 months max. Yeah, they're sitting at 8 right now in the Premier League, just below Brighton. Yeah, that was. We can spend a whole hour and a half talking about previous Tottenham managers, truthfully. Since Pochettino back in 2019 or 2017, 2018, I think is when he got sacked.
Current USA manager. Go USA.
Yeah, I'm hyped.
And it was 55 years, Cody, was the last time that they beat us in Anfield. Yeah.
I was just half off. Either way, moving from last week's Liverpool game to this week's Liverpool game, how'd you guys feel about that?
I mean, I think that without a question, Luis Diaz has saved our ass multiple times this year. I think for me, my biggest issue always with Luis has been that it seems like he is thinking too much out there. Like he dances, he's moving around, he's doing stupid shit, and I'm always like frustrated with him for not just attack, dude, go for the goal. And it seems like the last few weeks he's like, dude's locked in. So I'm happy to see that. You had assists from Trent and from Konate from the back, which was awesome, seeing all the play through the back there. And then, like Justin said earlier about Darwin, like you watch him, you were saying like, it was the look on Slot's face about like, the relief of like having players that can actually do that shit. But I think you look at Darwin Nunez and it was like a weight lifted off the man's shoulders. Like he actually was like, okay, I can do this. I'm not just going to keep hitting the post over and over again. It did hit the post, but it went in. So in the irony of it, it hit the post still, but it went in. But I was hyped to see that. The big story with that was Kelleher starting with Allison. And I know like I saw Allison posted something, I think it was yesterday, of like him sitting up with like the machine on to help circulate like cold water through your legs and stuff. So it's got to be something muscular that he's trying to work through. So I hope that it's nothing too serious but even with that, I trust Quahim Kelleher. That dude can fill in when we need him to. But I was a lot more spirited effort by the boys this week. I was happy to see it, taking care of business at home against a team that we should beat.
So why are you guys letting Kelleher leave?
I'm a big proponent of. So I know, we just bought this new goalkeeper and sent him back out on loan.
Hartishvili.
Basically the only transfer business we did as far as bringing anyone in this summer. But I'm a big Kelleher fan. I would have been okay with, letting Allison go at the end of his contract or, 1 year left in his contract, getting, some money. There's been a lot of Saudi interest, it sounds like, getting that Saudi money in and making Kelleher the number one. I really just feel like every time he's been slotted into the team, pun intended, he has, worked out, and not only worked out, but, made a name for himself, made big saves, done well in penalty shootouts and cup games. So I'm all in on the Kelleher train. I hope, we can continue to utilize him and keep him, but I think this is probably the last year that he's going to be, in a Liverpool shirt. And then,
he deserves a chance
for him. Yeah, I do wish the best for him, but he does deserve his chance. Like you said, he needs to go be a number one somewhere and get that consistent play time.
There's a place about, I don't know how far London it is from Liverpool, but not that far away that, I mean, Vicario tries to touch the ball outside of a box one more time, I might be calling him up and saying, hey,
I'm glad that you're bridging into that, because that is actually something I wanted to talk about with the Spurs game, is that
I have no clue what he was thinking.
No, this is my thing, is I've come up with the perfect comparison. Vicario is the Premier League version of Dak Prescott. Sometimes he makes these crazy plays and you're like, wow, this dude's amazing. And then sometimes he throws a pick right to the defense or makes the dumbest throw you ever seen or something. It's literally, that's Vicario. He does some amazing things and he's this amazing goalkeeper. And then other times he does things that you're sitting there like, dude, you're going to cost us a goal. Like there was a couple times where like he played it. I saw he like played it out. And it ended up with like a scrum with like the ball going back towards the goal, like within like 10 seconds of him passing the ball. There's stuff like that he does where like he's just so anxious on the ball, it feels like, that he just makes these decisions and we're like, just stay in your net. Stay in your net, let your defense figure it out, dude. Like calm down.
Against Brentford, he definitely had a few moments. Like he had one where he tried to like dribble out from the back and got tackled, and then I think he made like a save to make up for it. But and then obviously the touch outside the box, which was outside the box. I think we can all agree.
100%.
Yeah. I think there's like I don't know, spoken kind of like, if it's close enough, we're going to let it slide type of thing with the referees. Because how often do you see indirect free kicks? Because that's what's caused, like by those types of things, like, back pass that you pick up, or which those are also lenient too. I feel like there's leniency towards that as well. Like sometimes you see something that looks very back pass-ish that ends up, being picked up by the goalie. And I feel like referees are not inclined to call those a lot of times because it's, an anomaly a lot. You don't see it very often.
That's true. And it worked in our favor, so I'm not going to raise hell about it. But, I mean, I want consistency out of the refs. He 110%. The first two, he touched the ball 3 times. First two, the first one 100% was in the box. Second one, he was right on the line. It is what it is. Third one, he just didn't grab it properly on the second one, so he had to go out for the third touch. He still didn't even get the ball, unfortunately. But you can't touch. Just stay in the goal, man. Just stay in the goal. We have the fastest man in the Premier League as our center back.
Yeah.
And you were on his side. There's zero reason for you to need to come out and try to get that ball. There's no reason whatsoever. But worked in our favor. That's the game. I just don't understand how it can get reviewed by VAR and still not get called.
Yeah. So apart from that, how do you feel about the match overall? Spurs Brentford. Obviously, Mbomo had that, which shout out to Mbomo. He is the backbone of that Brentford attack. Really quality. 100%. I mean, that volley, the score within a minute was incredible.
It was disgusting.
He's a good striker. But how are you feeling about the match? Early on after that goal, and then obviously coming back to win 3-1.
It was very Spursy. It was a very Spursy win. Like you said, that goal. It's upsetting to give up a goal 23 seconds into a game, obviously. But that's how we play. Like we played a dangerous style of football, and I can't be too mad when we give up a goal. Give up one goal, sure. I expect to give up one goal at least every single game. Probably not a good thing to expect, but that's just how the way we play. That's just natural. So the fact that we were able to bounce back, I was really happy with. I think that we were able to finish a lot of chances. I mean, realistically, like we had 23 shots, 10 shots on goal, and we only scored 3. I mean, we won 3-1. We had 3.52 xG. So we still technically were underperforming, but you know, beggars can't be choosers. Any team in the Premier League is a good team, as much as we like to say differently. Cough Everton, but you know, can't be too mad. Big Dom got his first goal in Lily White. Love to see it. Brendan Johnson shutting in all the haters. It's tapping. Yeah, I mean, he is.
It was a tap.
Okay, it was a tapping, 100%.
It was a tap.
All right. He does so much more than that, though.
You got to get out the gate.
Yeah, 100%. But he does so much more than that. His midfield play and his link-up play with Sonny and, you know, Destiny and Brendan and Kulu and all of them, like he's that guy. He can sit in the center circle, get the ball, you know, given, like pass to him, and he'll get it out immediately right there. Like he turns the ball over in the box, but everybody we plays a low block on us because that's the only way that you can stop us. We are dominating. We dominate possession. We are number one. Hang on. Let me pull it up. I took a screenshot of it because I thought, I mean,
I think his
super well, but
quality off the ball is also telling. And if you look at Bournemouth right now, Evan Nielsen, who they bought to basically replace him, their number 9, has not, you know, up to this point, you know, there's transition into the Premier League, but has not flourished, has not, you know, filled in, and has not, you know, slotted in as they would expect him to for the money, you know. And I think that speaks to, you know, Solanke's quality off the ball as well.
Right. Exactly. And we're still Richarlison, my favorite player. He's not going to start when he comes back, but I like the idea of not having to play Dom the full game, every single game. I think Richarlison is a different profile. He is purely a goal scorer, and he will give us the extra push at the end. But I mean, if you think about Spurs right now, we are currently number 1 in average possession with 63%. We are number 1 in crosses with 126. We are number 1 with passes into the penalty area. We are number 1 with shots on target, and we are number 1 with final touches, or touches in the opponent's final third. That's how we play. We need to score goals. We can't be in these. We can't get shut out. We can't be in these 1-0 games where we have not scored. It is simply a recipe for disaster. And I think we're still fairly early on in the season. I'm hoping and praying that this game was the game that kind of unlocks it for us, because we are in it with, as those stats say, every single game. We've played Arsenal, like we've played Brentford. We've played teams that know how to play. And I'm hoping next week when we go to City, or when we go to United, that we can fucking pummel them, honestly, at the end of the day. But
I mean, I think you guys have a good shot in that. I do think, like, one of the things I wanted to know what your thought process on this is, Cody, but like last year you saw like Pap Sarr was playing great. And it seems like this year I don't know if he's taken a regression, so they haven't really played him, but like they've really only put like Bentancur out there. And I wonder if like, is that maybe part of it? Because Pap, what he was doing, what I was seeing from him was kind of a very similar role to like what we're seeing with Gravenberg, where it was like that kind of ability to take the ball in the middle, dribble through some people and find someone. And I think I'm also just not a really big fan of Bentancur, but I just think like that's a position that they could easily strengthen in the transfer window if they wanted to, or B, try some of the other guys that they have there, because I think Pap I've always thought highly of him. I think he's a good player, but I just don't know about Bentancur in that spot.
Had him on your fantasy team last year.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, no, Pap. Pep definitely has taken a regression this year. I think as we don't need to, we need the midfield needs to play better. I don't think we need to improve on our midfield. Matters has been playing this week specifically. He was lights out. I think he had like a 8.9 rating on FOBMob. He was cooking them. So you can't not start somebody of his caliber. I think it's hard. While yes, there obviously are players better than him, I think it's hard to replace. It's hard to find somebody. It's going to be expensive more so than anything to find somebody better than him. Basuma, he didn't start this week because he was kind of coming off of an injury. But Basuma, when he's on, is, in my opinion, one of the best sixes in the Premier League. That's not saying a whole lot. There's Rodri, there's Declan Rice, there's would Gravenberch play a six? I don't know, but he's having an amazing season.
He does now.
Yeah, seriously,
not supposed to, but yeah.
But he's when he's playing, and he has been playing fairly well recently. He's insane. You can't not start him, and then that leaves the number not the number 10, not the number 6, the number 8. Sorry. Right now we're in this weird kind of testing period, I think, for Decky, Dejan Kulusevski, because we can't not have him on the pitch. He's been our best player this season, and it's not even fucking close. He's a workhorse. He's great with the ball at his feet. He can score if he needs to. Great passing. I think, in my opinion, my ideal midfield is Matters, Basuma, and Kulusevski. Just because we have, and it might change going into the future now that Odebert's hurt. He got hurt playing Coventry on Wednesday. But, I mean, we have Brendan Johnson, who I do really think highly of. We have Sonny. You can't not play Sonny. And we have Dom in the middle. And then Richarlison whenever he gets fit again. So I think Decky works best in the midfield. I'm not a big fan of him being on the wing. So it's just hard, taking it back to your question. I'm just sitting here talking about Spurs midfield. It's hard to find a place for him right now. In Bentancur, I mean, he's been injured for damn near a season and a half now for the most part, and he has the bones of a fucking glass house. But
had that concussion.
So he just can't stay fit. But like, he was amazing this week. And this week I was so happy because when we first bought him back in 2022, he was our best midfielder. And then he tore his ACL and had to miss the whole second half of the season. But for that first whole half of the season, without a doubt, he was our best midfielder. And that's the one good thing Antonio Conte did for our squad, was kind of unlock him. But I think with how young Pap is, we just signed him to a big deal. He's not going anywhere anytime soon. And if he does, we're going to get a lot of money for him. I don't think Bentancur is going to be around for a super long time. I think probably at the end of this contract, with his injury history, he's going to have to go. And then Pap will probably get his turn. But I don't, on top of his regression, and it's not very much of a regression, but he's definitely not playing as well as he was last year. I just think at the end of the day, it's just hard to find a spot for him in the squad. So yeah, I think that's why, but who knows? And on top of that, we have Archie Gray and Lucas Bergvall, who are two 18-year-olds we just signed, who are the future. I expect very good things from both of those two. I mean, Bergvall came in, or he started against Coventry. He looked great. He was probably our only good thing against Coventry, until we finally got those 2 goals at the end. But he was the only bright spot during that game. But yeah, I don't know. It's a weird spot that we're in right now. We have a bunch of children, and then we have a starting 11. So we're set up for the future. This season, I feel like it's just going to be a crapshoot until Ange finds what he likes.
Well, that's what I think. From what I was seeing on social media after the cup game, is that I feel like a lot of your fan base is not really focused on the Prem this year. They're like, that's kind of out of our reach this year, but we need to try to win a trophy and something else. But when your depth are all teenagers, it's kind of hard to really do that because I mean, your text was like, "Oh, I see, we're not trying." It's like, it's hard
We started
because
Timo
you
Werner. I
want to try to
never want
keep
to see his
those.
face ever again in my entire life. I cannot it feels weird. It's a conundrum that I'm kind of in because everybody was kind of shitting on Brendan Johnson after the first couple of weeks where he kind of was not the greatest. But everybody's like, "Oh, we love you. We love you. Your mental health's important," which is true. Then we're turning around and just absolutely demolishing Timo Werner's life. And I am all for it. He adds nothing. He adds pace, and that's literally it. And I cannot stand when I see him getting ready to come onto the pitch.
You need
But
to
yeah,
put him onto the Kai Havertz project, which is, essentially Mikel Arteta just had him score a whole bunch in training and then gave him like a penalty when they were up 4-0. And now all of a sudden, he's back, switched
Scoring every
on
other game.
class.
yeah.
So you put him on
I mean,
Havertz project where you just get him some goals in training, make him feel good about himself, get him in the Carabao Cup, and get him a good start against lower competition, and then, just see if you can get some confidence going again. And maybe
see,
he'll
that's the
flirt.
problem. Is that's what we tried to do against Coventry, and he looked like dog poop, dude. It was terrible the entire time. I ended up turning the game off at halftime. I was at work, so I probably shouldn't have been watching in the first place. But it was tough to watch every single time he comes on the pitch. And even last year, I don't know why we renewed his loan. I cancel it in January and send him back to Leipzig. We don't need him. I would rather have just about
Especially
anybody
with
else.
Odegaard now. Odegaard looks
Yeah,
like the real deal. I liked him
yeah.
on Burnley. I had him in fantasy for a few weeks. Just matchups didn't work out, but he created a lot even on Burnley and Vincent Company's side. So
Yeah. I
um,
think
I do like him a
he
lot.
is. I'm still hopeful. I mean, he's still really green, but I'm hopeful that he is the player that we need. That's what we've needed since Ange got here, is a dribbly winger, somebody who can unlock a defense in a low block, and that's what his profile is. That's what he does. He's still extremely young, but I hope that he comes back soon. I hope his muscle injury isn't as bad as Ange is making it seem, but I'm really excited for the future of Tottenham this year. To Jake's point, like, I wouldn't say like the Prem's not important, but realistically at this point we've already, like, we need to pretty much win out to stand any sort of chance against Arsenal or City or Liverpool for that matter. I mean, you guys have only lost one game. It's bound to happen to either Arsenal and City or both. I mean, shit, even Villa's up there, unfortunately. So it's just not feasible. But I don't know. I do want to win something. I do think the goal is to win something this year, based off of the lineup that we put up against Coventry. It doesn't seem like the Carabao Cup is going to be the one. I'm hoping we go all out for Europa League. Currently favored to win that, by the way, just in case anybody didn't know. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see. Well, I think we play AZ Akbar or whatever the heck.
All right, yeah.
Team.
It's a Dutch, right? Easy Akbar.
Yeah. Our Karabakh FK. That's who we play on Thursday this week at 3 p.m. So we'll see how we line up there. I'm imagining everybody's going to start, but like I said, we play United at Old Trafford next weekend, so that'll be interesting. But enough about Spurs. As much as I could talk about Spurs all the time.
Segue into some other matchups from
let's talk about West Ham versus Chelsea. Okay, I don't think I can call Chelsea anymore because they look fucking good, dude. They look good this weekend.
Well, 115.
Dude, it's been amazing because like Nicholas Jackson looked like dog shit like since they got him. I don't understand how like all of a sudden out of nowhere this dude decided he was going to be good and start scoring. Like he had 2 goals this week in like He's scored 4 already on the year. It's like a awakening of like a guy that we all thought was going to be absolute horse crap.
Justin, how do you feel about Nick Jackson?
I feel like all of Chelsea, apart from Cole Palmer, burn hot or cold. Like,
That's true.
Nicholas Jackson could have a brace, or he could, complete 5 passes, or like Madueke is another one where he had that hat trick, like a few weeks ago, and then could, not contribute anything for a few weeks. And maybe that's due to having so much talent on the team, because they do have a lot of talent. I don't want to as much as I don't agree with how they're going about things from a business standpoint, they have a lot of talent. Just not all of it's going to develop, and not all of it's going to play or start or, make even a name for themselves on the bench, coming off the bench. So I'm not a fan per se of like Nicholas Jackson. I don't think he's the most creative, the most developed, the most dynamic up front, but he definitely took advantage of his opportunities against West Ham this weekend. And I'm not going to, fault him for that. And they did look good. I think West Ham is really the main story in this matchup. They spent a lot of money this year, and I think they're still winless and, very near the bottom and, of the Premier League, and really have not gone off the mark. And, it's kind of a question of, was Lopetegui the right hire? Should they've even gotten rid of David Moyes in the first place, who, had them in a decent position in the league and had won, what was it, the Europa League with them, or
conference?
The Conference League, yeah. So
the Conference League.
I don't know. It's kind of an odd situation where maybe the grass isn't always greener.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they're sitting 14th in the league right now, 1-1-3. I mean, shit, Jacob and I, when we were doing our preseason predictions,
I was just about to say.
Yeah, I had them sleeper team to finish in the top 4. I love their team. I mean, I don't enjoy West Ham as an organization, but
the squad that they build is good, though. I mean, it is.
Lucas Paqueta is an insane guy, an insane footballer. I love Mohamed Kudus. You got Bowen up top. He played lights out last season. And their defense is kind of wishy-washy, but the attacking threat is there. But
they got Somerville, like, dude, you're seeing like nothing from these guys. It's great.
They had .x5 xG or .85 xG.
I feel like Fulcrum has like barely played.
Yeah, Fulcrum has only come off the bench, and more recently he got an injury on international duty, so he wasn't even in the lineup. So I don't know. I mean, I think he was supposed to be essentially the Mikel Antonio position, right? Where he was going to slot in there and try to work some hold-up play and, get the ball out wide to like your Kudus and stuff. And I have not, I've not even really seen him play for West Ham, because he's only come off the bench, and if not, he's been injured. So, I mean,
I'm going to say a hot take.
They bought Wan-Bissaka, who I think has been a bright spot for them. His one-on-one defending is, top tier. Not as great going up the pitch, but Wan-Bissaka has been good for them. But, I
thought that was a great signing too.
Yeah. A lot of names in the
I think Mikel Antonio is probably the worst forward I've ever seen in my life. Like, what does he bring?
That's a bit harsh.
What does he bring to a team?
He's had some honestly,
years. Like,
5 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, I feel like he's
for the reggae boys. Come on now.
I told Cody this before, and I do think this dude is a reincarnation of Lukaku, from the last few years. Like, it's like another Lukaku, except for it's like Lukaku at 40 years old then. And this guy is only 20. Oh, he's 34 too. Holy
Yeah,
shit,
I
dude.
thought he was like 29.
I
I
thought
didn't
that
realize he
dude
was
was
that old.
young. Yeah, I thought he was like 29, something like that. So I mean, I guess that makes sense, but he can't run. Like
No,
he's literally just looks like he's barreling
if you
around the
like
field.
look a few years back and watch some of his hold up play, he did a great job, of relieving pressure, holding the ball up against, center back and playing it out wide, playing on the break, things like that. I, am not necessarily a spokesperson for Mikel Antonio, but I will defend him. I do think, his better days are behind him, but he did have some quality days. He was never the number 9 that was gonna bang in the goals, but he did, I think provide West Ham some quality years.
Listen,
And
all right, you guys want my opinion on Mikel Antonio, so I'll tell it to you. I hate Mikel Antonio, and I'm going to put my Spurs hat back on, and it's because it was probably right around Christmas last year. Mikel Antonio has a podcast, because everybody has a podcast. We have a podcast. And I think he had Gabriel Jesus is who it was, who is a notorious hater of Richarlison, because Gabriel Jesus sucks booty hole, and Brazil chose Richarlison to be their number 9 instead of him, because what the fuck does Gabriel Jesus do?
because he hasn't done anything in like the last 3 years.
They were sitting there on their podcast just trashing Richarlison for his character, for the fact that he takes off his shirt, for the fact that he's shit. And
Pigeon celebration.
Ever since then, I just am like, you know what? Fuck that guy. And seeing his downfall now, and right after that, Richarlison started playing out of his mind. That's when he went on like a 7-game goal streak. And him and BJ were just linking up perfectly. I was so happy. And just watching his downfall is one of the many joys I get from watching the Premier League. He came on as a sub in like the 80th minute, I think, over the weekend. And I was just like, here we go, baby. I know that Chelsea's got it in the bag now. It was already 3-0 at that time, so it really didn't fucking matter. But I do love seeing Mikel Antonio flounder. Let's talk about Newcastle and Fulham. Fulham took
that was
the dub.
such a weird game, dude.
Yeah,
such
3-1.
Well, because I mean, what you had that Newcastle had that goal called off in like the 3rd minute, and like as soon as they scored that, it was like, oh, here you go, like Newcastle's about to turn it on, and then like 2 minutes later, Fulham responds on the other end, and there was like a decent amount of opportunities, it looked like, from Newcastle's way, and then like just another like great goal, like that link up goal for Smith Rowe's goal was insane. It was probably some of the best passing that I'd seen, other than that one Liverpool one that almost got scored in like the first game that we had, where it was like ping pong back and forth and Mo missed. But Smith Rowe, like that goal was crazy. And then like right out of half, Newcastle responds. They had like a lengthy like VAR review of that, and it looked like it was like completely fine. I have no idea why it took so long to okay that goal. And then after that, like after that Harvey Barnes goal, it was literally just like the game was up in the air for so long, and then Fulham just ended it like in extra time. But such a weird game. I was like, I don't understand how that game ended up that way that it did.
Yeah, I didn't think there was talk throughout the week that Isak might not play because of an injury, and he ended up starting and playing. And I questioning right now if that was the right choice, because he just didn't look himself. Not to take anything away from Fulham, but let's be honest, Newcastle should be the better side there. But I think it was, like you said, it was just an interesting game. I did not expect that at all. I mean, it was close until the very end. I think Fulham got the game, the 3rd goal in like the 90th minute or something, right around there. But I think
for Fulham is Raul Jimenez cementing himself maybe back into the starting striker role, because I thought Rodrigo Muniz was really great for them towards the end of last season. And, FPL wise, I had him in my lineup early on this year. He's since been transferred out, but, he was, expected to, I thought, carry that load, but it looks like, Jimenez might have found his, kind of stride again as a striker,
Yeah,
which is good
he
to
looks
see
good.
because he did have that horrific head injury. So good to see him getting back. I mean, there was a point where he was considered, with Wolves, one of the best, strikers outside of the top six in the league. And, could have had a potentially a big move away, was the Mexico first choice striker. And, obviously all of that set him back. But, good to see him doing well. But from a Fulham perspective, he might now be the guy that you choose up top instead of Muniz, who I think is their number 9, if I recall correctly.
I completely agree. I don't see how you could take him out. I mean, dude's been playing fairly well. I don't watch a whole lot of Fulham games, granted, but every time I've turned it on, he's looked like he belongs there. So I think
He's just that big body in the middle. I think like his control on the goal that he had, like right in the 5th minute, like the ball like went right off of his chest and he just turned and hit it. And it's like that's the type of stuff that a team like Fulham needs, is that decisive big body in the middle, because most of your opportunities aren't going to come from, great passing and great link up play, other than obviously the Smith Rowe goal. But a lot of like their opportunities are all going to come in from the side to that big guy in the middle trying to control it and shoot. So, I mean, I do think like Raul showed up. He played well. And I think that's really kind of what made that game that game.
I also think I don't, it's way too early to say this, but I would strongly consider at this point the Emile Smith Rowe signing of Fulham from Arsenal to be one of the signings of the summer. Dude's been fucking lights out for them this season. I think he's filled a very important role in that midfield, and he's just so fun to watch. I mean, I'm glad that I can say that now that he's not a gooner, but they just look like a different team nowadays. I feel like it's kind of fun to watch. And Alex Iwobi's a baller. I love watching him play too. Like, they're a fun squad and not somebody that I look forward to playing in the future. So
yeah, I mean, they gave Man U fits on the first day of the season.
Oh yeah, I thought that they might win it. It was one of those situations where I was like, I know a goal's coming. I don't know who from.
I mean, you've
at
got
this point.
Anthony Robinson on the left-hand side, who has been great. On the left back,
One of the
playing
best.
fullback.
USA.
Really, yeah,
USA.
solid squad through and through.
Yeah,
Our boy
absolutely.
Adama
Good for
Traore
them.
wreaking havoc.
I love Adama Traore. I can't even lie. There's no reason a man that big should be as athletic as he is.
Yeah, you know that, like,
he just dominated.
You know that video of like that big dude just walking down the street like through like a bunch of crowd of people with his muscles out, just like knocking into everyone? That's what he looks like as like a person, like a human being. He just looks like he just walks through like a crowd of people with his arms out, just puffing up, and then he just throws these amazing crosses right into Raul Jimenez in the middle for the goal. It's just great to see a huge man like that just doing what he needs to do.
It's something you don't see a whole lot nowadays. I feel like you got all these skinny little guys running around. So seeing a big jacked guy makes me feel at home. It's very American.
Yeah, all our friends talking shit about how soccer players aren't athletes. How about you go and look at Traore, bro?
Yeah.
Like, he will
next time anybody says some shit, I'm just gonna send him a picture of this guy and be like, "This guy's a decent soccer
Brandon. It's for you, Brandon."
All right, do we want to briefly get into a few of the other games and then get into the big one?
Yeah, let's do it. I didn't write any notes for the other one, so let's pull them up and kind of go through.
I would love to quickly talk about the Forest and Brighton match this morning. I thought there was a very controversial call. I don't know if either of you had a chance to take a look, and you might not
watched pretty much the whole game.
Yeah, you might not be able to see it too in a lot of the replays. But I thought the Morgan Gibbs White second yellow was extremely interesting. Extremely interesting. Because, I think it was a second yellow. I'll come out and say that. I think it was, in today's day and age in soccer and football, it was definitely a second yellow. It was a little reckless, definitely stopping, a counterattack. May have gotten some of the ball, but also kind of semi went through the back of João Pedro. I think it was a second yellow. However, I think the ref handled it extremely poorly. And I think, I don't want to hone in on the refereeing, but this is one, obviously we're not in a position where we can get fined, so we can speak, our truths. And this is one where I think it was very controversial. So he essentially, the tackle came in and it cut to, and, Jake said he watched it. So, tell me if I'm wrong, Jake, but the camera cut to the referee and he made the ball signal for those watching, over video cam. He made the ball signal as if he was, saying that Morgan Gibbs White got the ball. And then after like 15 more seconds of deliberation and the crowd at the Amex going absolutely nuts, he decided to pull Gibbs White to the side and give him a second yellow and send him off. Which to me, it feels like he got the word in his ear that, hey, this tackle probably is worth brandishing a second yellow. However, as the head referee, you made your decision. You said he got the ball. It's not allowed to go to VAR for a second yellow. So I just think it's very controversial that much time passed before he gave that second yellow. And especially the fact that it was at the Amex. João Pedro was on the ground grabbing his ankle, clearly in a lot of pain. It seemed like a lot was driving that second yellow that wasn't the actual, his actual decision as the head referee.
Yeah. And then he sent off both managers after that too.
Yeah.
So it was like, to me, like, I think it's a combination of that and also maybe chatting from the manager. And then like when the other manager, I think, started stepping in and being like, hey, what the fuck is this about? I think that's when it became a like, all right, maybe we should give this second yellow, because it seemed like it was after like the chatting from the sidelines and the crowd. I think you're spot on about that, but it's one of those where I don't understand how you give that in the moment. Like you obviously, like I do, like I saw exactly what you're saying. I think he even got the ball. Like you could see
he 100% did get
what
the
he
ball.
was saying to everyone. Like he got the ball, and then as soon as everything started to turn, he was like, "Oh, actually, never mind." And that's just it goes back to what we were talking about consistency in general, because you saw, what was that, 2 weeks ago, with the challenge that looked almost identical to the challenge that got Curtis Jones sent off in one of those games. They didn't even look at it. Was a dangerous challenge once again. Went right over the ball onto the person's foot. I forget what game it was at this point, but like those type of calls are always missed. Something like that. Like there's no consistency with what they're calling, and it almost seems like that's kind of what VAR is there for. Is supposed to be that like consistency and like, hey, actually this is what we saw. But it seems like they're not using like the video assistant referee in the right way almost, because it's like there's so much more that they could be doing to look into this that wouldn't involve changing the game. Like that changed an entire aspect of the game right there. The entire end of the game got so much more interesting because of them sending him off. And then you send both managers off. It's one of those like head scratching moments that you go throughout the season with officiating.
Yeah, I was also watching, and it was a yellow. All right, I think how it should have been approached is he did get the ball first. Was it a dangerous tackle? Yeah, absolutely. I think he got ball first. He clearly was going for the ball. I think his angle of attack was just bad because he's coming from behind him. João Pedro had no idea he was there. I don't think he should have given the second yellow because he got the ball first. However, I understand it was a yellow card tackle. So, and I get the whole inconsistency there and the room for interpretation, but I can't help but feel like what he should have done is not made a judgment at first. He should have stopped play for a second, thought about what happened and, made the decision after that. And then I feel like he would have given the second yellow and everything would have gone off like as it was. The problem was, like Justin said, he made the ball motion and he literally said the word, he got the ball. You can't, it's the conundrum of,
for sure.
Yeah, it's the conundrum of, do we want the game to go faster or do we want the correct calls? And there is no right answer, truthfully. But at the end of the day, he was operating on, let's get this going, and then sat there and thought about it for a second. And whether it be crowd noise, whether it be the coaches saying stuff, I can't say that for a fact because we obviously weren't there. We weren't in his head. But he clearly sat there for a second and thought about it and decided to change his decision, which is unacceptable. Just if you're not sure, hold off, take a second, think about it. I mean, you're adding 5 to 10 seconds to the game at that point versus the fucking 5 minutes that it added with everybody yelling at you and Morgan Gibbs White and the whole Forest squad coming up and screaming in your face, and then you got both coaches screaming in your face. I honestly don't know why Brighton's coach went off. I didn't really see him saying a whole lot.
I think they said he came onto the pitch or something. So
I mean,
it was like
coaches going to the pitch all the time.
Yeah, conduct not acceptable.
It seems like a consolation thing, but
yeah.
Either way,
I think
it's an ego thing for the PGMOL. Is literally what it is.
It's just questionable. If you want to consult one of your assistant referees, on the byline, whatever. Like I understand that, but don't play your cards by saying he got the ball and then decide 15, 30 seconds later, maybe he did get the ball, but I'm still going to give yellow. Like, if you make this gesture, you're saying it's clean or it's clean enough, right? Like, I've never seen someone say, yeah, you got the ball, but here's the yellow. Like, you don't make that signal without basically saying it's clean or it's clean enough to keep playing.
Yeah. It was a weird thing. Big blunder.
Yeah.
And poor guy.
Yeah. Morgan Gibbs White, moved him into my fantasy lineup this week, so that's some negative points. So, yeah, just a little hard done by that one, personally.
Yeah, you still have us all by like 100 points, so
not that much. I think it's only like 50 or so.
I don't know. I'm shit, so
there's a lot of season left.
It's gonna be a tough road back there.
Yeah, I was telling Jacob on the last episode, but the weekend before last weekend, I finally caved and was just like, all right, well, whatever the fuck I thought I was doing in FPL is not working. So I'm like, I'm just going to eat the 8 points that it's going to deduct me, and I'm getting Haaland, and I'm going to work everything around Haaland. So, and it's paid off, honestly. He had 27 points he had 30-ish points because he had a hat trick last weekend. And then he had 27 points today. So I'm coming back slowly but surely, but y'all have Haaland too, so I don't have fucked there.
But I did try squad, but it didn't work. So I sent him back.
Yeah, there's just
I hate the scoring for that.
I've got Salah.
It's so dumb.
Like, I feel like it's hard to have both of them and have anyone else consistent.
I've seen people on Reddit that do that shit.
Replace Salah was a bad idea. I should not have tried to replace him. I should have just kept him in the team. I was like, I'm gonna maybe move him around. Try to allocate the money a little bit because I'm spreading. Some of my other guys aren't doing shit, and it's backfired completely.
All right. What other games we can talk about?
We going to the big one?
We can go to the
No.
No, not big one yet.
Let's talk about Everton because we love talking about Everton. Okay. I feel like we talk about them way too much. 1-1 draw with Leicester. They didn't lose.
They have to win those games.
Can we get a congratulations? It's Leicester. Leicester's not a bad squad, and I'm not saying that just because they drew us.
They are not going to win the games against the teams that they shouldn't win. There's not going to be a situation where that happens this year. So they need to beat all of the relegation guys that came up, or the promotion guys that came up, and you have to win one or two of those games that you shouldn't to keep yourself up. If they're drawing to Leicester, they play Crystal Palace next. They're not winning that. I'm sorry. They're not winning that. will come on here and eat crow. I will eat crow if they somehow win this game next week. It's not happening.
Where are you going? Wait. Do you have a crow plug?
Yes, I do actually. It's
all right.
Maester aiming at Castle Black. He's got all, and he's feeding him as much corn as he can.
Is that game at Selhurst or is it at Goodison?
It's at Goodison. I'm sorry, dude. That place is not scary to anyone. It's a relic already. They're not even done playing in it, and it's a relic. It's not happening. I'm telling you. Then they go and play Newcastle. It's not going to happen. Then they have to play Ipswich. And I'm telling you, if they do not win that game against Ipswich, it is immediate. Like, they're fucked. It is what it is. They need to win the ones that they need to win.
If they don't get 3 points out of those 3 games total, I think Sean Dyche is gone, honestly.
There's no way
I don't know how he's still there. I don't know how he made it from last season.
If you're an Everton fan, I think at home, you expect to probably draw Crystal Palace, and then you expect to win against Ipswich. So, if I'm an Everton fan, I'm expecting 4 points. If they leave that round of 3 games with only one, say they lose to Palace, lose to Newcastle, and draw Ipswich, I think Sean Dyche has to go.
I don't know how he made it to this season.
Please keep him around.
I think it's not on top of that. I mean, if they can't manage to win those 2 games against, or at least draw Palace and beat Ipswich, they're tied. Well, they're not tied. They're not last right now. Technically, Wolves is last, but they both are 0-1-4 with -9 goal differential. Like it's down to that for them already. Like they can't get blown out by Newcastle as well. On top of that, they need to win against Ipswich, and they need to at least draw against Palace. But we'll see. I don't know. Palace played.
They've had some demoralizing losses.
Yeah, it was the same thing this week. Because I get a notification anytime a goal happens in any game, just so I can kind of keep somewhat up with all of them. And I saw that they scored in the 12th minute, and then it was going along, and they played at 10 o'clock. So I was busy watching Spurs, and there's a bunch of other games going on. But I was like, they might actually win this. Like nobody scored yet since they got their goal, and then I got the notification that Leicester leveled it in the 72nd minute, and I was like, damn, man, they just can't catch a break, bro. It doesn't matter how much they go up by 2-0, 1-0, 3-0. It's destiny.
What is the tiebreaker for the bottom of the league? Because
I think it's home and away wins, isn't it?
They both don't have a win at home. They have identical records at home.
It might be away, maybe.
Might be goals scored.
They both lost 2
goals scored.
That's why goals scored.
Maybe.
They're exactly the same, I think, right? Both 5-5, and they both let in 14. So I'm like, I don't understand. Like they're the bottom of the league. They are. I mean Wolves
they
is
might
terrible.
as well be tied for all intents and purposes, but it doesn't matter right now. What matters is where they're at in May, and right now, not looking so hot. But
yeah.
I think even at this point, I don't see how you keep, unless they go on an absolute tear and finally piece it together. I don't see how Sean Dyche is there past January, but
we'll see. We'll keep him on the hot seat for now and see. Maybe I do think the next 3 games are pivotal, especially that Ipswich one. You can't lose to Ipswich.
No. You can't even draw to Ipswich, in my opinion. You have to beat Ipswich. Leicester are one thing because they were out of the Premier League for a year, or maybe it was 2 years or 1 year. I can't remember, but they were recently. Ipswich hasn't been in the Premier League for 22 fucking years. You can't. They don't have the remnants of a Premier League squad. Like that is they have some transfers. Yeah,
so
and
I'm telling you,
they have some transfers.
Win that.
They got some loans, but. They're just you got to beat them. But let's go City versus Arsenal.
Hold on quickly. I want to give a shout out to up and comer Southampton, Tyler Dibbling. Right. I think his name is Tyler. I think Dibbling. He looks like he could be the real deal. Scored the only goal, won a penalty last week against Man U. really making a lot happen for Southampton could be what, him and Ramsdale are going to be their best chances to stay up. If Ramsdale, who I think has had some pretty good saves since he came in, obviously he's going to face a lot of shots with that defense, but he's had some quality saves. And, maybe if Dibbling can make enough happen, I think he plays like around the right wing. If he can make enough happen, that's going to be their best chance to stay up. So I just want to give a quick shout out to him before we get to the big one.
Yeah, I honestly,
dude's 18, dude. He's got a lot of growth.
I'm bad about following, especially teams in the lower half. I'm not even going to lie. So I don't know jack fuck about Southampton other than Ramsdale's there. So I'll have to give this guy a look. I trust your opinion, so I'm sure he's going to be exciting. But
I don't know if I trust my opinion on everything, but
I mean, you know your stuff. You probably know more than I know my stuff. But all right, City versus Arsenal, 2-2 draw. Guess who scored for City?
Dude,
we all know.
Inevitable. There have been 3 other goal scorers for the entire season for them, and they each have 1. This man has 10 goals. He has double the next person in the league. Like, it is... We already did our apology last week.
Yeah, I'm not apologizing again. I'm not shitting on him ever again. Dude, he made me look like a goddamn fool.
It was, yeah. I mean, the goal that he scored was so...
Too. I mean, to go near post against, Raya, quality keeper, very well positioned, just kind of toe poked it in. It was a clean finish, and got in between the defenders and just did a Holland run, where
it was great placement.
Line, there's no stopping him.
No, and he's on pace. 10 goals, 5 matches. He's on pace for 64 goals this season, which is not even. He scored 70 like 2 seasons ago, didn't he?
Well, not in the league itself, but
just all over. Okay,
yeah.
But yeah, 64. He's on pace for 64 goals in the league.
I also think
there's no way he can keep this up, right? There's no way.
I think very highly of Arsenal. I would not doubt the man.
I wouldn't either at this point. He's insane. Not even human, dude.
The end of that first half was absolutely disastrous for City, dude. They concede that goal. They can concede the goal off the corner with, a bunch of dicking around in the middle of the box instead of actually just doing your job, dude. That was so absolutely ridiculous.
Why?
What is he?
Why?
He was literally just poking him in the stomach. I don't understand what Kyle Walker was doing there, but for him to get just sauced like that, Gabriel dunks on him just like he did the Tottenham the week before, and then 6 minutes later, in the extended version of extra time 2, they get the red, and it's like that it couldn't have snowballed into a worse situation for them. And then for the game to just it basically drowned on the entire game. It was just, the entire thing was just an even matchup pretty much after that. It didn't seem like either side really took control, mostly because, like we said before, Arsenal's sitting back with 15 people at the goal and not actually attacking. And that's I feel like that has been, there was a lot of talk going into the game about this, is that Arsenal, when they have played City in the past, they don't play to win. They play to draw. They're not going in there with an attacking mindset. And City just basically controlled the ball as much as they could at the end of that game, and it was just passing back and forth, just waiting, and it was almost like we say always, it's inevitable with City, and they just fell asleep again at the end of the game and gave up 2 points because of it, and that it might come back to bite them, dude. They had every opportunity to win that game, every opportunity, and they choked it away.
I don't know. I was texting Jake. I actually didn't get to watch much of the game. I went to go get a haircut. But I was like, of course, City can't score against a 10-man Arsenal. Like, what the hell? And then I came back and I was watching the highlights and kind of caught back up on the game, and it was just like, well, yeah, I'm not even joking. Like, I will send you guys this screenshot that I took. 8 men in the box. Havertz was the only one not in the box.
Yeah.
For every single offensive City possession, every time they had it in the final third. I'm just, what kind of shit is that? And I want to be mad, and I am mad, and I will be mad, and nobody can tell me that I can't be. But it fucking worked, and that's what makes me the most mad. That's such a freaking bitch way to play.
So I want to back up and just, I do think, not like just completely as a neutral, not like, picking sides, but I do think the referee, Michael Oliver, complete disaster class. He never had control of that game at any point.
No,
from the kickoff,
they were body checking each other. That shit was crazy.
Kickoff, Kai Havertz threw a shoulder, which I guess there was no angle as to whether it was actually like in the face or not. But Rodri was holding his face. I expect any player to milk it, so I don't know if it actually hit him in the face or not. But from the kickoff, there was body checks. The goal that Arsenal scored, which was quality. That Calafiori goal was quality. But it was taken like at least a few yards from the actual foul. And when I say a few, it was probably close to like 10 yards from the foul. Like, there was just no control in the match. Even the Bossard, who like Trossard, but I've got a few friends call him Bossard because he's a super sub off. So I'm going to call him Bossard, shout out them. The second yellow for him, I just think after everything that had happened in that match, that's not a second yellow. Like that was a bit harsh.
I disagree completely. I don't know why the match was still going, but that was 100% a second yellow. He just came up and body checked.
Everything that had happened in that match, all the body checks, I just there was a physical game. All the players were playing up to the hype, and that I think could have been kind of glazed over. I don't think that needed to be a second yellow. And it wasn't dangerous. It was just kind of, a little nonchalant, like not playing the ball. But
yeah, I see what you're saying. And I will try to approach it as a neutral because I saw that and was just like, God damn, fuck Trossard. But I think the difference between why he got the yellow versus why nobody else who did it, we wouldn't have had any players on the pitch at that point. But Silva was about to get the ball, and the body check prevented him from getting the ball. I do get what you're saying, but I think you can't not call that when somebody's about to receive the ball. I mean, the ball was getting passed back to Ederson at that point when Rodri got his check. Holland ran into at least 20 people throughout the game, and then turned around and threw the ball at Gabriel's head after the equalizer was scored.
Get into that too. I would love to see that.
Crazy.
I didn't even notice it when it happened, but
I caught that on the broadcast, and I was like, I had a buddy over watching, and I was like, I swear he just threw the ball at his head. And like they never went back to it on the broadcast. And I was like, after the final like whistle and the handshakes, because I didn't want to miss any of that because I knew it was going to be explosive. After all that, and like it went back to the studio, I was like, I have to go back and like rewinded. And sure enough, like Gabriel had his like jersey over his head and just got like the ball
belted in the back of the head, dude.
Holland, the shithouser.
Like,
he do be shithousing people hard.
If we're gonna like dish out cards, that's a yellow.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you're 100% right. There was zero control. Somebody needed to step in and kind of make a thing. But I mean, who was it? Jacob, we were talking about during the week. Anthony Taylor. Anthony Taylor wasn't allowed to referee a match this weekend. He was the fourth ref, but he wasn't allowed to be the head referee. He gave out 13 yellow cards in the Chelsea match last week.
Yeah.
But that's who they needed.
Just flashing.
It was insane. But yeah, I was laughing really hard.
There was also
that low block that Arsenal ran was, that was diabolical. I mean, they essentially were obviously all in the box trying to cut off, any players going, to the end line. But then also what I thought was interesting was they essentially sent a player out anytime like Kovacic or like Foden got the ball like on the edge of the penalty area. But if like Ruben Diaz had the ball, they were like just begging him to shoot from long range.
Yeah,
And like
same with Kyle Walker.
multiple times they just blazed it over the bar and like relieved pressure. So they were essentially just like begging, someone to try and, score a howler. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we're missing the most impressive stat that I have seen in any game this season is that Kai Havertz, starting striker for Arsenal, played a full 90 minutes and had 0 completed passes. 0. Not a single one.
Yeah.
I honestly, I prefer the stat. I think it was like, I don't know who it was. And I don't want to say it was Holland, but it might have been like Holland. There was a game where the only completed pass that a striker completed was off the like halftime kickoff. I like that one, honestly.
That's a good one. That beats it for sure. That's just a consolation pass.
City had 33 shots that game. Arsenal had 5. That is.
Did you? I watched Kyle Walker sail at least 10 over the bar.
Dude,
from
33
just
shots.
Outside of that.
I mean, it shows exactly what we were saying, though. I mean, if you watch the game, you could probably tell that. It's just like they sat back the entire time, and it's the same old Arsenal. They just don't. They don't learn. It feels like because every year they get to the end of the season, and you go back and you circle this game, and you go, if they just would have throttled it a little bit harder at the time that they could have pulled away there, and they didn't. I mean, like, obviously playing a man down handicapped them a bit, but it's just
that's what they're going to hang their hat on.
They don't go into games.
It makes me angry.
Go into games looking to win.
Yeah, and that's what everybody's going to say is they're going to be like, well, they were a man down and it's City. And I'm like, you knew damn well you do that to every big opponent is you don't play to win. The only team they come to play to win, honestly, is Spurs. And as much as I love Spurs with all of my heart, we're not at that point of being like real competition with them at this moment in time. And I'm man enough to admit that, but they do it against Newcastle. They do it against United. They do it against Liverpool. That's just what Arteta does. And it's unfortunately very smart, but it's just such a fucking bitch way to play, man. It's annoying. Just play. You have good players.
When they're at full strength, they typically play like 4 or 3 center backs at the back.
Yeah.
I mean, Saliba, Gabriel, and Ben White are all center backs by trade. And then now with Calafiori, he is like borderline center back, like for Bologna.
Yeah.
So, they're all in on, just being sound defensively and breaking with like Saka or Martinelli or, having Havertz drop in and then play wide, get up the pitch. So that's definitely the style of play that they've decided on. So I do think there's something to potentially learn from as, opposition to Man City. Obviously, your Liverpools, your Man U's, Tottenhams are not going to just drop into a low block for the majority of the game, but it did look challenging for them. They were not creative for a large portion of that second half. So is there something that, mid-table teams can learn from and potentially snag points off of City from that? Maybe. Who knows? We'll see.
The skill difference, I can't see it, but you're right. Maybe. I think Arsenal's just their attack, especially without Odegaard out there kind of policing the middle. They don't have an attack really. I mean, Kai Havertz scored some goals, but I don't think he's very good. I mean, we don't think Martinelli is very good. We were talking about that earlier. Saka is an incredible player, but you need more than one person to complete an attack. So we'll have to see going forward and if they can make it work. It looks like they're doing it so far. So I guess props to them for that. But you expect a little bit. I personally expect more from a top table team than to go out there and play for the draw. I think that's a cowardly way to play. But all right, let's wrap it up. What do you think, guys? Anything else?
Yeah,
apologies.
No, I think it was a good chat about the last, the one that we missed, the few games that we missed, and then this. We got some good games coming up over the weekend. You got Chelsea and Brighton. Your boys play on Sunday, Cody. So we'll be fresh returning from Cody being a married man.
Yeah, we talked about European competition. Liverpool up against. Who do we have next? Do we have? I want to say it might be Bologna. Who do we have next? You know, Jake, off the top of your head?
Yeah, I mean, I can look it up really quickly. I do kind of, it's like in the back of my head, but I don't exactly remember at the moment. We play West Ham. We play West Ham on Wednesday in the EFL Cup. And then, you're right. It is Bologna on the second. Yeah, we played Bologna on the second. So we got Wolves sandwiched in between that.
Had a good match against Milan. Just quickly, Pulisic, Captain America had an early goal, but we were able to fight back with some goals from our center backs. We had Konate and Van Dijk getting on the score sheet, which is cool.
Yeah, that was hype, dude. Honestly, anytime you see a Virgil goal, it's one of the most beautiful goals you've ever seen because that dude just rises up like a stallion and he wills the ball into the net every single time. Love to see a Virgil goal every single time. Although
I've been betting football.
Joe Gomez goal this year. It's got to happen. Never scored before in a Liverpool shirt.
How has he never scored? How are you a professional soccer player and never scored before? Dude's been on the team for years at this point, right?
Yeah,
so at least 3 years. At least 3 years, and you got to.
It's a head scratching thing, honestly, that he hasn't scored yet. It's
got to be some sort of.
I don't understand that.
Mental.
We barely seen him this year too, dude. They barely played him. It's been.
Yeah, he might be out of favor. I don't know. He didn't look great when he came on against Milan either. But
listen,
we'll see.
I'll tell you guys what. I'd imagine he's probably going to play against West Ham because you guys probably don't care about the Carabao Cup. I'll put $20 on a Joe Gomez goal.
Dude, let's do it.
I know it won't happen.
I'll easily place that if he's starting, but if he's not sniffing that lineup, I'm not putting that down because
there's no way.
We're going to have a substitute Joe Gomez. He's played 11 minutes this season. That's crazy. Insane.
Is it out of the fact that you guys just don't have the room for him, or is he kind of shit now?
On the right back, which is where he's preferred, we've got Trent and Connor Bradley. So,
hey, how about you guys move Trent into the midfield?
And then he has played left back, left fullback, but we've also on the left.
Seems like slot like Simicast.
We got Robertson and Simicast. Yeah, Simicast started at Milan.
I think that Slot likes him, which is crazy.
He likes
Klopp hated that motherfucker, dude. Klopp hated him. I swear to God, he never saw the field. Somehow Arne Slot came in. And he's like, "This is my guy right here. This is my backup left back." I don't get it.
Let me see it. Yeah, I guess we'll find out on Wednesday.
That's all I've got.
Take advantage of a broken West Ham. So. All right, boys. Justin, thanks for coming, man. We'll have to have you on.
I appreciate it. Definitely.
Anytime.
To hop back on, at another point in the season and see, how many predictions I made that were false.
You at least got to come back on on the weekend of the 21st of December when Spurs.
When we beat the shit out of you, right?
Yeah. And then we're all just going to sit here and yell at each other for an hour.
Also planned for the Merseyside derby. One of them, and
that's a good one too.
Would be great to talk some smack if we thrash Everton, but also that's one where Sean Dyche could just decide he's going to park the bus, and we come in here and upset after a Calvert-Lewin 95th minute equalizer or something. So
don't even will it, Justin, because that speaking that into existence is going to make it happen. I just already can feel it. All right, lads.
Their first win of the season is going to be you guys.
Appreciate it, you guys.
All right, guys.
Yeah, good
Cheers,
talking.
Mate. All right, guys.
All right.